first turn-in phase hit, and Superstars had 2-level lead, they had heroics, and they had 2 forts down, it was a completely different game for them.
Yeah, and that was the teeter-totter, really. I want to say that I feel like that game should have been a different outcome, but it really wasn't. It played as close as you could get to like what you would have expected. Maybe I thought Superstars might pull ahead a little bit more, maybe play a little bit more passive level 1 through 9. But as you said, they made a mistake early on with a couple of picks. They realized, okay, this isn't working, slow things down. They did, and it really didn't seem too recoverable from that point on.
Well, don't forget, guys, you can support your favorite team, support the teams here by cheering in the Twitch chat. So far, we have broken last weekend the 20 million mark, granting everyone the Arcane Chaos Lizard, unlocking that to ride around in the Nexus with. And now we're on our way to the Deadly Chaos Lizard. Thank you all so much for cheering for your teams, cheering for HGC. Today, what are you cheering for, Dread?
I'm cheering for... Let's see here. What could I be cheering for? I don't honestly have anything worth cheering for, I think, today. Well, can I cheer for nobody today?
Sure.
Can I actually be unbiased today and not cheer for a random? I'm cheering for the 3D Li Ming behind you.
All right, you're cheering for Li Ming. We're both cheering for you guys hanging out at home, hanging in with us, even though we had some technical difficulties in Europe. You guys are awesome. And hopefully you are enjoying this series as a reward for your hard work waiting and hanging in for that. Where are we going for Game 4?
Do you know you're a suck-up?
Yeah.
Going to Game 4 is Sky Temple. Superstars are the one choosing this, though. You know, it's an interesting one. Superstars picking a map that's so team fight oriented. I know we're getting a little bit low on the hero pool, right? Or on the map pool. It's not surprising to see some more maybe T2 selections here, but just being a map with clear win conditions make me go, this has got to be better for Superstars. But historically, that doesn't work out. The maps where it should be a little bit more like where they hold their own 1 through 9, they should be able to win that game that they seem to struggle, and it only becomes more apparent that their opponent should be able to win their games if, for instance, they don't win levels 1 through 9. So the map being selected is not surprising, again, because the depth of the pool, but it does also, every time I see Superstars go onto this map, I go, it's trade-offs both directions.
Yeah, I'm a little scared of the potential Abathur for Superstars again.
Yeah.
It did not work out for them on Battlefield of Eternity. SpaceStation knew exactly what they needed to do to punish that, and I don't see SpaceStation doing anything different. I see them immediately seeing an Abathur for Superstars and doing the exact same thing. Whereas SpaceStation, we haven't really seen too much Abathur from them. In fact, they're just happy to have their cow back, Dread.
There is a difference between this and most of them, though. Genji's up. Genji Abathur is a different beast than most of the Abathur compositions, and it's a map that accents it pretty effectively. I agree with you, up until the Genji situation. And then I go, you know, if you end up going into the Genji and Abathur, I feel like Superstars has a pretty realistic shot. It still does play towards the weaknesses, but it's not like SpaceStation has been punishing levels 1 through 9. So then it goes to teamfight, and those two together do have good enough teamfight to be a problem, even against an opponent like Superstars.
But will Superstars bring back Genji? After Genji didn't really work out for them, they ended up at a, where is he at? 1-6 of the games. So 1 win, 6 losses with Genji. They kind of just stopped drafting him altogether. And now they're in a weird spot where he's still up. This is a team fighting battleground. And if they don't take him,
Akko Taco.
I think Talking Trees will be happy to pick him up.
Falstad and a Dahaka.
Back to their double global, but not the Abathur.
Not a map that they can necessarily gain enough out of the laning situation to justify being 1-2 punched this high into the draft. I feel like a lot of that Falstad was solely with the intent of deterring the Malthael, which we could assume SpaceStation might want to pick up. And it's also a map where heroes like Li Ming and even that Genji, which, let's be real here, a Malthael-Genji transition? Am I crazy? Genji didn't get nerfed again, right? It was only the first nerf. We haven't seen a secondary nerf. Genji Malthael. Malthael matching into the Dahaka 1v1, and it's going to prep with the Tormented Souls reset on reset. I mean, ETC's nice and shabby here, but let's be real here. Those two together on a map like Sky, that was considered unforgivable in the past. They go with the Uther instead, which now allows Superstars to get out the ban. And you could argue, if you are SpaceStation Gaming, if you get the ban, it's worth the resource and maybe some of the thought process behind the Uther over, again, that other selection. But they don't, so I'm just flat wrong. ridding the Abathur instead.
Yeah, Superstars actually ban Abathur, but maybe they know more about Space Station than we do. Generally, that's not a Space Station type style of play. They want to play more early game. They haven't played, they've played them a little bit, but not so much as Superstars have. Whereas Space Station ban a new rack, making sure that there's no cocoon for a Genji that's in Dragon Blade.
And the Malthael situation here, I almost feel like they're calling out Superstars and just saying you aren't going to pick Malthael here. You already have Dahaka. There's no way you pick it. And if I am Superstars, I'm picking Malthael here. There is no way I let it go through after all the things on the other side that have been banned around it, that are accenting it. And more importantly, let's be real here. There is an Uther, Genji, Malthael on the same team on a map that doesn't have to worry about minions. You got to be scared. You have to be at least, you know, kind of being like, whoa, boys, slow down the ponies here a bit. They go with the Superstars and Greymane and a Lucio.
Well, they still get the Lucio. Maybe that's enough to dissuade Space Station from taking it.
I don't think so. Genji is going to be totally fine with the fact that that is, and, you know, and the Lucio, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here. They have the Falstad. It could be enough. Between the Falstad and the Lucio, maybe. But just the Lucio, if you don't go into the Malthael. Which, again, we talked about why be disincentivized. What do you end up picking up? There is a Lunara opportunity for Space Station Gaming and seems to be the best go-to. Again, we talked about the slow and enabling that. Other than that, I would guess an Arthas. That's about the only two I can see synergizing with there to enable the Genji, pairing with the Uther, and prepping it out.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird because generally Jason plays 3 heroes. I said I put out 2, but it's actually 3: Falstad, Dahaka, and Malthael. And when it's not one of those 3, it's kind of whatever he needs to play. Lunara is maybe also a Greymane, but it's Sonya and Li Ming.
Sonya, Li Ming.
Ooh.
This feels very, I mean, maybe it was the new skin. Maybe that was it. They just needed the new Sonya skin. Is that the Dreadlord skin? Is that what that is?
Death Knight.
Death Knight skin? Is it a Death Knight skin? I thought she got a Dreadlord. I
Stop
didn't realize it was
claiming
Death
everything.
Knight. I haven't gotten to play her yet, dude. I'm sorry. I haven't gotten to play the new skin. It's dope. I just saw the skull and immediately was like, is that a Dreadlordy thing?
Equinox tweeted me last week something about, oh, I didn't know that you liked Leap so much. Is this a Leap game? Is he doing it?
Well, when they picked the Sonya, that was the only thing that really kind of stood out to me. It's like a stage dive Leap Genji all-in composition with the Li Ming reset, reset, reset.
So Tyrael would be good against that, right?
So Tyrael would be a pretty effective pick if you were looking to just stop everything your opponent's trying to make happen. If the gust wasn't enough to make it scary. This is an interesting draft. We might have a game on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. This one's going to be, I'm excited for this. After seeing the draft outcome and the risks taken by Space Station Gaming, and then what we see out of Superstars and the stability. I mean, it's just a really well-rounded draft from Superstars. I mean, my favor always falls towards the Tyrael composition here. The Death Ball, if played proper, I feel like it's going to be really hard for 4 melees to be able to get through a Tyrael and a Falstad. It just doesn't add up. Lucio's good against melees. Everything about Superstars, as long as they don't get clumped in one shot, is good against everything but the Li Ming. But Space Station Gaming is, in my opinion, a better team here. It's a map that they'll probably be able to snowball off of, and when conditions are going to be clear, who knows? An aggressive composition should favor Space Station. So suddenly it's, can Superstars stall out long enough and be able to overcome it here? I don't know. I don't think so. I think the Tyrael will be a little bit too slow, but I'm ready to be proven wrong.
I like the idea, though, of having Lucio along with Tyrael so that hopefully he can get even to a better setup or isn't forced to use Sanctification, especially with Gust, too, so that it's only used when it can really enable that Greymane, whoever the Greymane player, probably Yoda, is going to be for Superstars. But it's comes down to, can Superstars keep up with Space Station on a team fighting front? Last game, they didn't really have to. They just had to survive the picks and then make the wave clear happen until they could snowball to a victory, and Space Station's base was overrun by a bunch of spiders, which sounds horrifying, I must add. But this game, they will have to keep up with the team fights with the composition that they've drafted.
You are correct, and it's really just like a, well, then prove it here, Superstars, because you took a bold move here. There is a couple of risks on the side of Space Station Gaming, but again, they are willing to go all into a teamfight composition. It is a map that is going to accent it. It's just Tyrael is such a high-risk hero. it takes a lot of synergy as a team to be able to get away with it, the coordination necessary. I just question if it's a little bit too difficult for them to be able to take out a team like Superstars.
Do you think it's going to be...
SpaceStation. I keep doing it, man, every time.
Here you go.
Where's my coin? I had coins.
Here, I threw them all
doubloons.
in there.
You seriously? How many pay-ins are we deep? Like, you haven't won the game by this point?
It's been a rough series, Trent.
Some opponents got mule or what?
I don't want to talk about it. Do you think it's going to be stage dive this game just because of Gust?
Well, it makes the most sense, especially with the Tyrael coming online, unless I wanted to. I mean, I just would argue it makes the most sense across the board to match the Dahaka Falstad global pressure. And if you're going to go into the leap, if you don't go into the leap, I can see why you wouldn't want to move in the mosh pit. But if there's any time where you go Divine Shield and ETC mosh pit into it, you could argue, well, it's like, well, we got the full mosh, it's still worth it. But like, nobody's going to get any kills. It's not worth those kind of trade-off and cooldowns. So I just feel like it's more forgiving if they go in that direction.
We're just waiting for Superstars and SpaceStation to be ready for this potential final game. And they are now ready for the game. Let's get into it. Game 4 between Superstars and SpaceStation.
Here we go. I think you put it best when discussing the team fights. And Superstars, this whole series really hasn't been too dominant into team fighting. They did show a couple of moments in the last one, as you said, where they were going 50-50. That was a Nova composition, and they did all the things necessary to make sure that they came out on top of that one. It's a very forgiving, slow play. Not an option here with a Tyrael composition. Tyrael comps, debatable, debatably one of the hardest compositions to run if you go into the sanctification, and more importantly, you're picking heroes that are relying on a sanctification.
Yeah, it almost feels like you can tell the difference in the confidence of team fighting just when you look at all the drafts of this entire series. Superstars doing things like drafting disengage, they're drafting a lot of globals to keep them in the game if they lose picks, whereas SpaceStation, they're willing to make those risks. They've always been willing to make those risks, sometimes to their detriment, but they're willing to draft more aggressive compositions, and on a battleground where Sky Temple is going to force those aggressive maneuvers from both teams to fight it out over the temples, which are so strong. Superstars has to be willing to commit to that, and that's why I wanted to bring that point up. But you can notice that even throughout all of the drafts, drafting a lot of things like wave clear, a lot of globals for Superstars to kind of have more of that forgiving nature.
And right there on bottom, that was a very well done boop from Superstars to be able to keep the members alive. Urho manages to survive this laning situation. SpaceStation Gaming trying to be proactive with their Genji and their ETC, but no lane is really easy to kill other than bottom. And Iacon is over there to get the peel. So it's just going to be when the shrines come online, who comes out on top? And I very much do give that to the highly mobile and, more important, highly lethal composition SpaceStation has developed. Superstars doesn't team fight well. Both Falstad, Tyrael's a lie on that one. Falstad and Lucio want to wait until 10 until they're effective. Tyrael gets great at 10, but he's actually pretty freaking good post 4. Like, as long as you hit 4, he actually is one of the better early game team fighters. So
he has that increased damage with Purge Evil at level 1. SpaceStation have respect for the composition that Superstars has, or at least understands that Superstars have a global in the bottom lane, whereas SpaceStation doesn't have a global with the same capabilities. They want to keep Sonya down there, so they're willing to take the hit of taking the top temple instead, just getting rid of that, and then maybe focusing on getting their bruisers afterward to try to push down that fort, but they're not even contesting in the middle for that temple.
Yeah, not even willing to risk any transition. Interesting decision making coming out here, but we'll see what SpaceStation can make happen on bottom. If we see, no, we didn't see the cutoff there of SpaceStation. And the top 4, it keeps alive. Very important there for them. Superstars starting up the Giants. This is the old Superstars Giants show on Sky Temple. After they finish this one, they are just going to beeline right on over to their opponents.
Made even faster, thanks to Iacona. Always going in there.
Anybody on SpaceStation Gaming stop it? Because you might have heard that me and Gilly were pretty enthusiastic to bring this to light, guys, because this is every game on this map. 100% of the time. They walk in, sneak it in, they're out of here. Most teams do at least show themselves, but SpaceStation here, hot pursuit of Yoda, Hammer of Justice. Look at that movement speed from Iacona. Enough to stay out of stun range, and it keeps him alive.
Superstars almost banked on SpaceStation just trying to get that fort at the top, so they recognized that they could run straight over and get the Giants. So now SpaceStation, it's a thorn in their side. Might be able to take out the tower there, but it's not going to be too much. It's been dealt with, and bruisers are still available for Sonya to take. Superstars are getting their own bruisers too, and that will allow and help out the global composition that Superstars has as both teams start getting ready for the next temple phase in the bottom.
And if things look really ugly for Superstars, because they do have that double global, it makes sense to highly prioritize pressure up towards top. Both the shrines were taken nearly immediately for both teams, which means we know the next shrine phase is going to spawn roughly at the 4-minute and 40-second mark. So a whole minute out, and they have a double global advantage. Superstars being willing to capture it that early, and then, again, not posing a threat up towards top. This is those windows where talking about not getting as much as you possibly could. It would be an extremely disadvantaged circumstance for SpaceStation to be in if there is a night camp and 2 globals pushing top right as that bottom shrine spawns.
Yeah.
But now it's going to be wasted.
Exactly. SpaceStation can keep Sonya up to the top to clear that out. Dahaka will likely need to stay up there and clear out the bruiser camp for SpaceStation, depending on how much is left. And Sonya is even zoning Dahaka clear away from the minion camp, just trying to deny experience as best she can. The shrine has started temple in the bottom. False Knight should fly in, and Dahaka's going to stalk. This will be a man advantage for Superstars.
It will be a man advantage as long as they hit the drag. Strays hovering around. They finally, Ming and Tiger JK both end up dying very quickly here. Good job from Superstars with the coordination there, and now Hosie's going to back to deal with the Sonya.
SpaceStation may be biting off more than they can chew, getting on the temple right away, knowing that Sonya just cannot get down to the bottom. And Superstars weren't willing to allow Equinox to control the show. They just sent both globals to the bottom. They take out 2 kills, and they get a majority of the shots in the bottom lane, even sieging along with it, trying to take down that that bottom 4.
And SpaceStation Gaming, that was a very predictable transition for Superstars after the Sonya was willing to zone off the Dahaka. You have displayed dominance up towards the top lane. You have already solidified the fact that it is not going to be the 2 versus 1 outcome that you were maybe entertaining originally. But they were still willing to, you know, kind of dangle around within risk of actually taking a fight. Equinox accepted that I'm pushing top with this night camp. And so a bit of, again, biting off more than they can chew throughout that bottom lane. The fact that they were even willing to risk being past the halfway mark would very clearly be an offsides here. But Superstars, they have their heroics, and now they want themselves a boss.
Do you have Sanctification as a tool? Roderick Reforging will come into play later on with Holy Ground 2 as boss control. Of course, Iacona sitting and thinking about what heroic ability he wants, but I don't see any world where we have reverse amp.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's, I'm along with you on that one. There's no world where we see ourselves a reverse amp here. Probably going to be the sound barrier still.
Yeah, there's just so much damage for SpaceStation, and it's such a volatile composition between Li Ming and Genji if possible for resets.
So now they have a double camp and a full level advantage. Boss pressuring up on bottom. Superstars, what do? Looks like their False Set is going to be able to match the Sonya, and the rest of them are looking to pressure through mid. And this is a common strategy that we see when teams have a mid-game advantage with 10. You pick up the boss, you pressure through mid because it's going to gain you more, and it's not nearly as risky a fight. In a Sky Temple, we focus on structure. Structures matter on a map like Sky. But with a double giant behind it, the members of Superstars could have poked around, prepped that thing, kept it alive a little bit longer there. I would have liked to see them try and 5-man group, or if they go through mid, immediately focus on the top half. This is still being cleared on bottom, and they're not doing anything with this window. And this is, again, a second case where we kind of see that from them. And I'm not highlighting more to put them down. It's merely just to show you guys when I'm talking, what do we want to see these struggling teams get out of cases. There was a lot more that was left on the battlefield there for Superstars.
Yeah, there was some time maybe to focus on that top 4, but because Sonya had pushed back the wave so much, maybe Superstars just didn't want to step out in a spot that was going to be really bad for them, especially now that SpaceStation has heroics. Superstars have a level advantage. How much can they maintain that now that we have 2 more temple phases starting? SpaceStation gets on the middle shrine. The bottom will be controlled by Dahaka, but he can stalk in if Superstars wants to get aggressive here once they get 13.
Yeah, they're going to wait for the 13 window. Urho, good juke there, forcing a Sanctification in a second. That is not a cooldown that the members of Superstars want to be able to take a fight with afterwards. Now, SpaceStation is going to see the 13s, and that's when Superstars wanted to get aggressive before. If I'm SpaceStation, I take the fight. Because there is no Sanctification, that is enough for me willing to go toe-to-toe to you within a skirmish, and you see them doing exactly that. They're willing to transfer all over, going no Sanctification, essentially no team fight.
No team fight, but 13's there, and seeing that bottom was claimed by SpaceStation Superstars, will just rotate back around and get the rest of the middle temple. So about 50-ish.
That was actually, I thought the members of SpaceStation would keep somebody to contest around mid a little bit more. So what I was originally complimenting them as an aggressive transition was more a defensive transition. Seeing the 13 towards Superstars was enough for them to think mid is highest priority, we go to the opposite, and then they'll transfer over. So I feel like SpaceStation Gaming, where I feel like they would be willing to take that fight, their body language very much says the opposite, that they aren't okay with this fight, even knowing Sanctification is not there. They think the 13 talent tier is that much more important here for them.
And the globals are already an issue for SpaceStation, that Dahaka gets so much of bottom and then just leaves, stock up, they get the rest of mid. Superstars may not, you know, we talked about the team fighting, and there are going to be times when they have to team fight here. It's Sky Temple, but the globals still give them a lot of advantage, and when they can't team fight, when they don't have Sanctification, then they still have some opportunities somewhere, and that's the forgiving of having the double global composition that they do have. SpaceStation, once again, have found an air hoe, but he has his Eldarin's Might to get back.
Invade over the giant camp is going to be real here. Casanova and friends want to take this. This is smart for SpaceStation to indicate that they want to take stuff like this. Territorial fights are a huge advantage for them, but they're going to go in. Urho, no Sanctification for 10 more seconds. Sound barrier drop. Gust is used. Divine Shield Mosh does not net a kill. Urho is not going to give up a reset either. This is 1 for 1.
Oh, but Talking Trees, hoping that he can get in, uses his deflect just to make sure that the explosion does not seal his fate. Superstars come out ahead in that fight. They get the Giants. They get the 2 kills for just the 1 of Tyrael.
I didn't think there was a situation where SpaceStation Gaming lost that fight. They had the Divine Shield Mosh Pit composition. Yeah, there's the Sanctification on the other side, but it wasn't up. Sound Barrier is the only thing you're worried about, or Gust. And again, you win that if you end up getting that Gust before you use those heroics. So
the cleanse was good on the Mosh, but the Divine Shield was used for that too. Maybe the issue was that they didn't have Divine Shield for Dragon Blade instead, so that Genji couldn't get in. But man, I'm so surprised that Superstars lived that long in that fight enough to only lose 1 for the 2. When the setup was just awesome for SpaceStation, and that's putting SpaceStation even further behind as we've got another temple phase about to start.
And it's getting grim with the 16 talents here coming up here. The members of Superstars are going to be very thankful. Huge power spike coming out for Tyrael and that talent here with the Holy Ground opportunities. He may move into the Blood for Blood, but I'm still going to assume it is a Holy Ground. It's not a map where you have as common of chokeholds, but it's such a good sieging tool. Falstad split pushing up on bottom to make sure they get that talent here, and that's when you can expect the fight, and more importantly, the flight.
There it is, 16. Holy Ground's picked. Stray immediately steps forward, using adaptation very early on, landing drag.
They're going to go in. Equinox still spinning away. Trees drawing a bit of aggro. Divine Shield already used. That's a Sonya just trying to walk away. Trees, no more disengage, no cyber agility. He's going to be the first to drop. Casanova takes a bit of poke from a Flask and a Q out of Falstad. But Superstars dominate over the fight. Just get a Genji and out. That's all it is. Double
problem for SpaceStation. Not only did they not have 16, but they also did not have a couple of their long cooldowns for heroic abilities. And whether it was just the fact that it was a singular temple phase or what, SpaceStation seems like they're taking these risks, and each risk is putting them further and further behind now. But once they get 16, they have an opportunity to fight again. They have most of their heroic abilities, but they'll have to wait for Divine Shield.
One thing that we talked about at the draft was starting right after the ETC. Is that a Genji Malthael transition? We saw all the bans committed, a little bit targeting towards that, and now the Sonya did end up, was the final factor that went into that Malthael positioning. You got to be asking yourself, after watching this game kind of unfold, was that draft position decision-making out of the members of SpaceStation Gaming the reasoning? Maybe they're struggling so hard in this game. Sonya's yet to make a major argument for them. That last fight was won without 2 members of SpaceStation or Superstars even using their heroics. And those are legitimately probably the 2 highest impact, minus Sound Barrier, being Gust and Sanctification. It is just very clean fights here for Superstars. And again, that's not a statement you can typically say is a true statement.
SpaceStation have 16 now, but Superstars won't exactly be easy to find for a fight. SpaceStation have to make it happen somewhere. They have to find some opening for them. The temple phase down, boss now down too. There's just not a whole lot of ways for SpaceStation to find that other than just march across the battleground and try to find Superstars in risky location, maybe take it to one of the globals.
Sometimes that's what you got to do. I mean, it's one of those, it sucks, but this is what you need to do to try and find an outcome to come. And really, the best way to do it is look at your minimap right now, and you know everything's dead. You just start predicting the timers, in what order they come up, and then be there before your opponent. If you can somehow manipulate the map before it actually spawns to prep you to be in a position where they wouldn't expect you there, that is the dream situation. But right now, the minions are not in a position to be able to make that happen. Falset is displayed, or excuse me, they've all now going to display them on bottom as they're getting rid of the Giants. They pick up the Giants for themselves. Falset and Dahaka have both shown on top, but that's two globals to be able to match up on that top shrine. So it's really just, does SpaceStation Gaming accept the trade here and go for the later 20 fight, which does seem unrealistic, or do they go for a full-on skirmish?
And they're putting Sonya on the shrine, which makes me think it is the former of those two options. They're keeping ETC, Uther, and then two high damage dealing targets, Li Ming and Genji, as a possibility to still catch somebody out. You know, follow up with the Uther stun after Casanova, and they could realistically get those picks, but having Sonya means that it's just not necessarily a fair fight for them no matter where they find members of Superstars, unless they find just one or two people cycling around going between the lanes.
So this will be a worth decision-making for the members of SpaceStation as long as they get a fight pre-20. It will be. Like, they sacrifice a 20 or a top keep for a fight pre-20, which, again, realistically is one of the best ones that they're going to get. Flight comes down for Falset. Ray's going to mess with Equinox there over the shrine for now. It's a little bit of pressure onto him. Mosh Pit
catches the 3. Sound Barrier helps with that. Hosty gets out.
Divine Shield used a bit early. Hosty, Gus afterwards. Sanctification drop. Uther's already dead. The members of SpaceStation Gaming, their trees trying to find himself a reset.
Oh man, Iacon is so good at booping back so that Hosty can't give him that reset.
Superstars now getting aggressive. Another Holy Ground Smite throw down for the mobility. Drag unable to connect. Jason, one more teleport. Not there. Casanova falls quick after. 4 for nothing. Superstars now going to move up towards this bottom keep. They may even move past and just go for core.
Yeah, there is the bottom keep. Air hose soaking that up. They've got the boombox doing what it can there. They found Equinox, and they'll be happy to take him down. No Equinox means no pressure on them at all as they start to bring down this keep, taking us very soon to the 5th and final game in this series. Only Uther back up in 5 seconds. There's no way that he can stop this. Everyone else, damage dealers, way too far out. Superstars again hold in this, setting up for a potential reverse sweep versus SpaceStation.
Superstars is just, you know, the team that does not quit here at HGC. And I respect the hell out of it. My goodness, man. Even against SpaceStation here after falling down, showing the struggle. They keep it in, keep it alive, not letting that Nova game, you know, maybe they're playing with their food. They played that game very confidently still. More importantly, they made the material composition look pretty good. Does feel like a little bit of that came down to the members of SpaceStation Gaming and how the early game ended up playing out here. But suddenly, we have a game 5 where I counted them out after the second game. That's amazing.
We have a game 5. We do have to go to a commercial break before we get to it. But when we come back, game 5 and the conclusion of our first series of the weekend for HGC North America.